This podcast is brought to you by Most Valuable Podcasts, leading the league in podcasting entertainment.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. This is the Primetime Podcast. I'm your fill-in host for Ricky Widmer, Sean Anderson. Alongside me, as always, is Dave Oster.
Hey, everybody.
Not really alongside me, as always. This is a new pairing for the past month.
It is.
We're going to have fun with it. We're going to be talking about the big board that we have coming out. But first, we're going to be talking about some graduate transfers for the upcoming NCAA basketball season. And we're going to be welcoming on our patron, Matt, for that segment. And if you want to be like Matt, if you want to be on the Primetime Podcast, Fast Break, The Onside Kick, any of our other podcasts, check out patreon.com/mostvaluablepodcast. And we also got Matt to come on to the Discord. And if you want to give $1 a month at patreon.com/mostvaluablepodcast, you can jump on the Discord and talk with all of the guys from MVP and all of our patrons that are in there as well. It's a fun time. So let's get all of that out of the way. We're going to be talking about the big board. We're going to be talking about grad transfers. And we're going to welcome in our patron, Matt, who had the idea for the grad transfers topic. Matt, how you doing?
Doing good. How about you guys?
Doing pretty good.
Yeah.
It might be a very eventful scene outside of our window if you could see it on the camera.
Yeah, I might get distracted at times.
Yeah, it's we're having some fun Memorial Day weather here, but outside of that, it's been pretty good, and we're excited to talk about some grad transfers. We've seen the impact of some of these players that come through, and the effect they can have on some of these teams. Obviously, you can go back to the Michigan team with Spike Albrecht having a massive effect on his team being a grad transfer, and you wanted to bring this topic up and kind of talk about our feelings about the grad transfer program, how it can affect teams, and then also, what are some of the big names that could really affect college basketball this season. So let's start off with the feelings aspect first. You were talking that Purdue, your team, got a couple guys, or got a guy from High Point, and he's going to be added to the team. Obviously, he's going to help out your team a little bit, but what is your overall thoughts about the grad transfer program?
So I guess my overall thoughts, I think it's a decent idea in terms of, you don't sacrifice the academic aspect of it. They are graduating their previous, getting their degree at wherever they were prior, which I think is good to promote, and keep that academic part of it for sure. But then allowing them to transfer and play at maybe a higher level than what they're used to, at least in a lot of these cases. So I think it's good from that aspect. What I think is maybe the one negative I see to it is that is exactly what it is a lot of guys from maybe lesser tier Division I teams that usually step into more of a role on higher level teams. Matt Mooney, I guess, is maybe an extreme case of that for Texas Tech because he actually played more than just a role, I would say. But I guess my point being just that I think it's maybe, a little bit to the disadvantage of those smaller teams, the mid-majors, just because they're going to lose guys like this when they become eligible for grad transfer, and they're going to lose them to more of the blue bloods that need those spots filled by players leaving early for the NBA.
Mm-hmm. And I want to correct myself. I said Spike helped out the team as a grad transfer from Michigan. He started off at Michigan and then went to your Purdue, obviously, as a grad transfer. That was the most notable guy that I can remember. But that is a good point, at least with the mid-majors being the most effective. And Dave, we look at the list coming out. The big one to me is Kerry Blackshear for Virginia Tech, the power forward, 6'10", played with Nicky Alexander-Walker this past year, so he's going to be available. He has not committed to a school. But then you also look at Little Rock. Rajon Tucker averaged 20.3 points per game at Little Rock. He committed to Memphis, so that Memphis team now getting a little bit more loaded.
They went from stacked to loaded.
Yeah. Bucknell, they lost one of their best players, Nate Sestina. He committed to Kentucky, so another blue blood team. What are your thoughts on this? Because obviously, Matt brought up a point that these mid-majors kind of get weeded out a little bit and the blue bloods just get richer. But is it really helping these players? Because, if they're going to these teams that are already loaded, are they going to get enough playing time to really, fulfill what they want? I mean, we really don't know what they want exactly.
Right.
If it's more playing time or if it's more of a brighter stage, if it's just winning. But, I mean, overall, what are your thoughts on can the players what the players really gain from the grad transfer program.
It gives them an opportunity not only to kind of give themselves more of a spot like you were saying, but also continue their college basketball career because let's be fair. There's only 60 guys who are going to get drafted. Then there's only a handful of guys after that who are going to get invites to a two-way contract. So a lot of the time you have guys who are ending college and they're doing really well, but they're also at that second tier of schools, so they're not going to get the looks, they're not going to get the invites. So their options are, well, I'm done playing basketball and I can go to a normal career, or I can go try my luck in Europe or somewhere like that. And I think that this kind of gives them that second bit of hope going forward. It's like, look, just because I finished my years and I got my degree, I can go ahead and give it one last shot, be a veteran on a team that is going to be in the tournament. Maybe I can make a run for the NCAA tournament, or maybe I can add in that veteran confidence, help lead that team to something. Or I can show, look, guys, I beat lower levels competition. Now that I'm on the top tier, I'm doing it just the same. I'm worth a look in the draft.
For sure, and I think we kind of see that in the guys that are currently available right now, or some of the guys that at least are grad transfers. You look at Blackshear, and I think he's one guy that it's more about winning, and it's more about continuing his career.
Yeah.
You look at, they're going to be losing Nicky Alexander-Walker. That team might not be the same, and he might not feel like they have the same amount, same chance to win, and he probably thinks he can help a bigger school to possibly a championship, where he might not feel that's available for Virginia Tech. I don't know how much he can help his draft stock per se, but he is a very good college basketball player, and that's for sure. He might be one of those guys that, maybe he does continue his career, but maybe it's in Europe or maybe it's in the G League. But I look at a guy like Rajon Tucker, 6'5", 210, out of Little Rock, and he's had a very interesting career. Started off at Florida Gulf Coast, played 35 games his freshman year, 33 games, but only started 7 games total. And in that, his freshman and sophomore year, averaged 6.2 points and 7.7 points, and probably felt at Little Rock he can get more playing time and transferred over there. And then last year, in 36 minutes played, started all 30 games, shot 49% from the field, 41% from three, 77 from the line, grabbed 6.7 boards, about 2 assists a game, and scored 20.3 points per game. So he's a guy that did a typical transfer to get more playing time and get a bigger shine on himself, and clearly that paid off. And now I feel like this is a move to see if he takes a step up in competition for himself, what he can actually show and possibly make an NBA career out of this, because he's a guy that really only had 1 full year of actual playing time and did a phenomenal job, but people are obviously going to discredit it right away because he didn't play at a blue blood school.
Yep.
Now going to Memphis and being on a team that's going to be massively in the spotlight, you have Penny Hardaway, you have the best recruiting class this year coming there, and if they're in the tournament and Rajon Tucker is one of the guys that comes out and starts leading this team, especially in big tournament time, and he's a grad transfer with all these freshmen in this team, he could be a veteran leader out there and lead this team pretty deep into the NCAA tournament if all their plans work out to fruition. So this is a guy that might help his actual NBA stock. So for programs like that, or for guys like that, where Kerry Blackshear can go at least succeed in his college career, and Rajon Tucker could possibly build up an NBA career, I do like the program for that. It's just kind of where Matt comes in. It's like you look at Bucknell and Nate Sestina. Yeah, he might get some credit for what they're going to do at Kentucky, but I don't know if he's ever going to be that guy for Kentucky. I don't know how much playing time he's going to get. Calipari's kind of got limited rotations, and you're just taking away one of Bucknell's best players, and he's not really able to finish out his whole career as a Bucknell Bison and kind of really cement his legacy there. And that kind of rubs me the wrong way. And that's where I sit on this, Matt. What do you feel about some of the guys that we mentioned, some of the guys that we haven't mentioned, and some of the guys that you feel like you're kind of building up, some of their resumes?
Yeah, so I think you bring up some interesting points in terms of the whole motivation factor, because I think that's a big part of it. Some guys they're doing it for the sake of winning. Some guys are doing it maybe with the hopes of improving their draft stock. So I think that does need to be considered on an individual basis for sure. I think 2 guys that maybe I wasn't thinking of them up front because they're actually not eligible this year, but there are, people that decide to transfer and sit out the year since they haven't graduated, and that being the Hauser brothers for Marquette. I guess I don't know if it's set in stone, but I think I saw that one of them's going to go to Virginia and the other to Michigan State. So that's pretty big. I guess, I don't know. In those cases, that kind of rubs me the wrong way, just in terms of, how committed were they to their program to begin with, especially since they are playing on such a high level. I mean, the Big East obviously maybe had a little bit of a down year this year, but generally still such a high level of basketball that, here they are already looking for I don't know, more or less an easy way out.
Mm-hmm.
I guess I kind of don't like that aspect of it, but I kind of do like it for the lesser tier guys that, this is going to be their one chance to go to the big dance and to make a name for themselves. I think I like that. I don't like the guys that kind of use it, and don't necessarily go all in. At least it doesn't appear to me, don't go all in with the team that they're in to begin with.
Yeah, I think that I agree with you in that point, and we obviously never know the full extent of what they're going through in their college careers, and I always kind of feel like it's iffy too. I kind of lean with you where it's like, all right, you started at a place, why aren't you finishing there? And it's like, it kind of does a disservice to the fans, and it's also like, well, you committed. Like, you put yourself towards that. But then again, I've been a college student before, and I've known people who have gone places, and it just didn't meet their expectations. They want to be closer to home. They just feel like it wasn't their fit. And that I understand, and these kids are young. So I kind of feel like, I'm in the same boat, and I'm also not in the same boat with you, Matt. Transferring such a iffy thing, because it's like, well, are you giving up, or is it just something that you think it's going to be better for you in your future? And I think ultimately we just kind of have to accept it, just because these people are thinking they're making the best move for themselves. However, you look at situations like, let's just go to college football, like Tate Martell, where he was promised something at Ohio State, did not get it, and then obviously went to Miami and is trying to become their starting quarterback. That stuff I understand, at least for a career position, because he's trying to make his name in college football so he can possibly get drafted. And with some of these guys, I really don't know if they're trying to make a career out of it, at least in the NBA, because I don't know if they're going to have the ability to. So that's where I kind of come in with, like, the guys from like Bucknell, where yes, you could possibly play in the tournament, but you're kind of just giving up and not giving it all to the team, where if you've been there for 4 years, at least, and I don't know Nate's, situation, but I think that's kind of the part where that leaves a bad taste in my mouth, where maybe if a guy's just like a little bit younger, it's a typical transfer, that kind of makes it easier to swallow for me, Dave.
Yeah, I just go back to the, like, smaller schools. How much are they losing out of this situation? And I don't know that. I think it's still fine for them. I get it. It may seem unfair that, you're the guy who's kind of grown up along with your team and helped you guys throughout a couple of years is leaving to go play for a better opportunity somewhere else. Better opportunity in air quotes if you want to, but, like, that's what it is. I think it's still. I think it almost can be a plus to their recruiting, though, because if you have success stories come out of that, if you're able to have, like, a program where, hey, look, we are able to coach you up, and then, if you grad transfer by the time you're done here, you can go play for a blue blood and go get that experience in your career, that might be seen as a positive. So I think it's just a bizarre situation right now, because we don't have, like, a great track record of are these guys going to succeed or fail, or what level, are we expecting them to go on. So I think until we have that down, it's going to be a little tricky, but I still see it as a positive, like, across the board. I think the players get what they want. At the end of the day, like, it's their choice, and if they want to go on and continue playing basketball, awesome for them. I get it, the whole graduate year thing is shitty, but for the school, but at the same time, if you become if you're able to help guys go through their career, I think that's all the coaches want at the end of the day anyway, Yeah. And at least with the whole transfer, let's go away from just grad transfers. The whole transfer situation that's currently going on, there's some big names out there, some former five-star recruits. Derek Thornton, who started off his career at Duke, then at USC. He's currently in the transfer portal, looking for a place to go. Quad Green, who had 2 years at Kentucky, he's a former five-star recruit. He's going to be going to Washington. They've been a team consistently that has high-profile names go there, and he's going to try to play guard with Matisse Thybulle leaving and Jalen Noel as well leaving. And then you look at Javon Quinterly as well. He's a five-star recruit. Went to Villanova, committed to Villanova, and now is looking for a new place.
are there any names that are non-grad transfers, Matt, that stick out to you that can possibly have an effect for a longer time? Because most of these grad transfers are going to be there for a year until they end up leaving. But are there any guys that are currently out there that can possibly build a whole entire college basketball career in the future?
I think there's always the possibility of that. I mean, I think that we 90+% of the guys we're talking about, like we said, they're probably going to play a role, but there are opportunities where this really turns into the best of the best situation, and these guys are really starring and succeeding in their new role. I mean, again, I guess I'll jump back maybe as an example of that. I mean, Matt Mooney, just because on the biggest stage, a guy formerly at South Dakota and Air Force, he comes to Texas Tech for his quote unquote senior year, and has a stupendous run on the way to the national title game. I mean, I think that shows that it can be done. And then if you're talking to guys specifically too, that we're not just talking 1 year, we're talking maybe 2 years or so. That's all the more time for them to adapt to that level of basketball. And who knows? Sometimes you play better when you're playing against that better competition. You're forced to be better. So I think there's definitely it's not like guys can't step into this role and become a star.
You bring up a great point about Mooney, and also you can look at Brandon Clark as well. Brandon Clark started off at San Jose State, and if he went to Gonzaga, he might never been a top 10 pick. So this is something huge too. And Cam Johnson. Cam Johnson was a great shooter at Pittsburgh, but he needed to go to that blue blood to really get eyes on him. Was a fantastic shooter at UNC, and most likely is now going to build himself into a first-round pick. Overall, I don't know if there's any changes that I think could be made to recruiting, Matt, that I think would really benefit the program or benefit the players, really. Because ultimately, I don't really want to see these guys sticking around for like 6 years. 4 to 5, I understand, especially if an injury happens. But I think that maybe the only thing that I would say is, like, don't make them sit out a year, because if I transfer to a school from, I start off at one school and then go to another school, I don't have to sit out a year of classes. I could still go to class and still be a student. I really don't understand why they have to sit out a whole year. And maybe that would be the only change that I think could be made to the whole recruiting process. But I'd love to know what you think.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I mean, I think I guess I get it in a sense that it's supposed to be, I don't know, a punishment of sorts that you didn't originally go with this school, or they weren't looking at you, whatever the case may be. I guess I don't know that I get that. And to me, a big part of it too, it still comes down to it needs to be somewhat centered around the academic achievement of this particular athlete. They're student athletes, and we need to be promoting the fact that whether or not that they're hoping to be the NBA, that the degree needs to be important. And I guess that's what they're maybe trying to promote, in the sense that the graduate transfers can graduate and then they don't have to sit out that year. But so I don't know. I guess I don't know enough about it to know if that's the reason why. The thought is that, okay, they didn't finish their degree and now they need the time to kind of make it up. I don't know. Mm-hmm. But I think there's definitely workarounds, right? There's probably class equivalents that will transfer over, whatever, so they're not like that far behind. I don't know, but I agree. I mean, I think that can be reevaluated, and it probably should be. But overall, I think across the board, I think it's advantageous for the athletes. I think it's definitely advantageous for coaches who are, within a few days here, find out surprisingly someone's going to the NBA that they didn't plan for. Now they're scrambling to get someone. Mm-hmm. There's a pool of people that they can get, turn to right away. So I think across the board it works pretty well.
Yeah, I think it's a nice reward for them. For you finish, you get your degree, and there's no penalty for continuing on with your playing career. So I think that it's kind of a nice thing. The one guy that I didn't get a chance to mention earlier, Edmund Gilder, was an A&M guy. Had a blood clot situation in his arm, which is scary as all hell. But he did get cleared, and he's leaving A&M to go play for Gonzaga, which is awesome because they get a defensive point guard who shot pretty well when he last played. 4 attempts a game from 3, 39%. He is a good guard, good shooter. I think 50% from 2, 39% from 3. So like he is a good shooter, and I think that's honestly it's Gonzaga. They're gonna reload again. Like you mentioned, they're losing a couple guys this year to the NBA draft, and they're going to be right back in it. So I think that's one of the nicer things is, yes, he's graduating with his degree, but at the same time, now he's going to go play for Gonzaga because I have a feeling like him and Buzz, A&M's coach, new coach, aren't going to get along so great. So he's like, I'm going to just room myself and go over and play for Gonzaga and get a chance at winning another championship.
For sure. And Matt, final thoughts and any other guys that you want to bring up, like Dave bringing up Admon Gilder, any guys that you want to talk about, or maybe even the guy that your Purdue Boilermakers got.
Sure. So I guess we were talking beforehand, but the guy Purdue got, so his name's Jihad Proctor. He's from High Point, averaged 19.5 points there. I guess the real reason they sought him was because he was a shooting guard and they needed to replace Carson Edwards, who they've known was going to be leaving. He hired an agent, was going to be staying in the NBA draft, which no one can blame him. He did everything he could to will Purdue to a Final Four. But alas, crazy play, and Diakite didn't let that happen. So they needed to replace a lot of volume in terms of what Carson Edwards did. So they got Proctor, who, he's not going to score 19 points a game for Purdue. That's a known, but at least he's got a presence and, a scoring ability that he can maybe step in and give you 10 points or so a game. I guess one other name I'll point out just because I'm familiar with him is Isaiah Moss from Iowa. Mm-hmm. I actually didn't know that he was in this pool, but looks like he's committed to Arkansas. But he looked like he was really kind of solidifying into his role at Iowa this year, and like he was going to be turning into, I won't call him a star, but a very good, high quality starter. So I think Arkansas is definitely getting a good guy there. He only averaged 9 points a game, but shooting 42% from 3. And playing in what I would argue top to bottom was probably the best league in the NCAA this year. Not the best. Doesn't have the best teams, but just top to bottom was the best, I'd say.
Mm-hmm. And obviously it's good for your Purdue Boilermakers that Iowa's losing talent. So.
Thank goodness. Go away.
Good thing you. That's probably a welcome surprise that you saw that. Dave, any final thoughts about transfers? You think we covered everything?
No, I feel like we did a fair job. It's like you want to give credit to the kids, you want to give credit to the schools who may or may not, lose out on their guys they've built up over the years. But at the end of the day, I think it's a win for college basketball, and even football it's kind of wild carded a lot of situations where recruiting classes or injuries come up, and it's like, hey, doors open, boys.
Mm-hmm. All right, Matt, we want to thank you for joining us. It was absolutely fun talking about grad transfers and transfers in general with you. If you guys want to be like Matt, check out patreon.com/mostvaluable podcast. You can come onto a podcast, pick your topic, and talk about it with us and broadcast it to the thousands that listen to MVP podcasts on a daily basis. So we want to thank Matt for supporting us.